Welcome to another week at Everything Goes journey, which is our relocation adventure from the Isle of Man, UK, to Orlando, Florida. So this journey started on January. Started much earlier, of course, with my husband having to apply for the green card, etc. But the journey of the channel started right when I finished work at the end of December, so I released my first episode right about then, the last week of December. So here we are still, is June, is it? Yes, and it's been 6 months of this. I'm not tired, I love it, and I love sharing this experience with you. So hopefully you keep following me, you keep sending me your love, leaving me your comments, sharing with friends that you know that are going to a similar relocation experience. It is not easy. It is sometimes a leap into the unknown, especially when we did this without any work lineup or anything, and just relying solely on the proceeds of the sale of our house in the Isle of Man. So now that the house has been sold and we have moved from my mom's house to the rental, what is left to tell regarding a relocation? Where there is much to tell actually. A family doesn't get basically comfortable with a new country overnight. So there is a story to tell in that, as well as the journey of how we move from a rental to a house of our own, how we get into a buying position. So this past week has been an interesting week. We haven't done a lot of progress regarding our personal chores or personal mission because we have been spending time with family. Mark's family, my husband, is visiting from the Isle of Man. They did the savvy thing, which is renting their homes for homestays during TT, which are the famous, worldwide famous motorcycle races. So they booked a hotel in Universal Studios Resort, and we've been blessed of having the chance to spend a few nights with them. We booked a room and we did a staycation as well. So we had 2 nights in the resort, but we have been going back and forth because we're just 30 minutes away. So it's been lovely. And for me, one of the coolest things was having the chance to visit Epic, the newest part at Universal Studios. And here is a little clip that I did, which I meant to post it on the day, but I never did, so here it is.
Said I was in the parks this week. I just have to say, Epic is, well, epic. And I'm heading to the Ministry of Magic, which is absolutely one of the greatest rides I've done. It's not roller coaster, I cannot put it that way. It is more like a thrill. You have a combination of screens and animatronics, and it's just absolutely so creative. Really, really cool. But gosh, the place is breathtaking. See you later this week. Bye bye. Hope your week is going well.
And as you can see, epic. I swear it's truly epic. Pardon the pun, but it is very stunning, visually impacting architecture, concept, and each of the little worlds around it. And I use the word little carefully because they feel really big when you are there. Especially the Maryland is very overwhelming. You walk in there, you feel like you're inside again. And I think that's where they were trying to achieve. And for us coming from such a quiet place such as the Isle of Man and being surrounded by so many people, it does feel a bit overwhelming even 6 months after. You may argue saying that, okay, well, you come from Puerto Rico and it's it's an island of almost 4 million people, etc. But I haven't lived there in a long time, and there's a lot of places that I moved to that are quite small, and I have leaned or tending to enjoy a little bit of quiet and stay away from crowds, etc. So being in crowds is kind of like, whoa, this is a lot of people, this is what a lot of people feel like. But going back to Epic, it's just outstanding. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. If you walk through, I'm not going to spoil it for you, you need to come and visit it for yourself, and there are tons of videos on it on YouTube, but is nothing does proper, I would say, just doesn't proper give it the feel until you are there seeing it for yourself. So it has been a lovely, pardon me, it has been a lovely week visiting with your family. And they leave tomorrow, and then I have my sister coming in on Friday, so it's going to be another packed few days. One of the things that I wanted to touch upon today was the fact that if you see my previous episodes, I talked about our property, which is a rental, being managed by a rental management company. And these companies, some of them are real big, some of them are really small. Some of them may have a smaller portfolio, some of them. This one has a very large portfolio of properties. Been researching it a little bit more on their website and the services they offer. They offer sales and they offer rental property management, and they do all the way from the listing position to closing the deal. And then of course, they do the management of the property. I have come to realize when we're dealing with such big companies like this, we just become another drop in the ocean. And I'm not even aware that, if the owners are not living in state, and let's say the properties in Florida and the owners are in California. I'm just throwing it out there because I really don't know where they are. I don't even know if they are aware if the company actually does what they promised they would do, because they're comfortably thinking, well, we are getting the rent. But in reality, I think these companies are responsible for making sure that the property is being maintained. As people that are renting, we are taking care of the interior. The landlords are paying for the gardening. But I mean, I'm walking around the garden and seeing the palm trees are falling in the screen in the lanai. So I need to speak with the gardener to make sure that that's taken care of. I put a lot of items in the moving report, that things that there are easy fixes for them and they just need to send the handyman over, but they haven't done it. So, and then they also have a fee of $99 for us, the renters, to be part of their global insurance for liability. So if somebody has an accident in the house, that is covered. The insurance has a program of identity theft protection, and then also there's a couple of other elements on it. The delivery of an AC filter. They do have handyman services. They requested that all the items that are deficient in the house be put together in the moving inspection report, which I have done. I returned the report at the end of May, and I logged in a couple of maintenance orders that I saw as things that need to be taken care of as soon as possible. And we haven't heard or received anything. They had a concierge service to help us with moving, and again, they didn't help us with anything. So those are the parts that I'm saying, us as rentals and the rental property itself becomes another drop in the ocean, because they are managing this massive portfolio of properties, and the main focus is collecting the rent and making sure that the landlord is being paid, but they are not meeting the smaller commitments in between. The property maintenance elements are part, I assume they are part of the agreement with the homeowners themselves. So I'm going to still track this, because it's an interesting concept. If you're moving abroad to any new territory and you're planning to rent for a while, what I would suggest is, like, one of your homeworks that you do in your research is checking that if the property that you're going to rent is being managed by a big rental management company. What is their service history? How does that look like? What other people are saying? I didn't do that. I learned my lesson, but I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to read more about it, and I'm going to see how I can influence the type of service that they are providing to not only the landlords themselves, the ones that own the property, but also to the people that are renting the property and the properties that they claim to manage themselves. So I will give you more information about that later on. Another thing that you will find when you relocate to another country is that the smaller things of food, the food differences. Like in the UK, there is a lot of items that are not allowed. So if you buy a Fanta in the UK, for example, the artificial colorants that they put here in the US are not permitted. So that is not permitted by their equivalent or food administration countrywide. So Fanta has to color their drinks in the UK using orange juice or percentage of orange juice, not a yellow colorant that looks like it's going to survive a nuclear war, like it does here in the US. And you will see a lot of those colorants here, and they are awful, and the drinks taste awful. And I am so happy my son doesn't like them. So we are buying more natural alternatives that are made and colored with real juices. Another staple. So in the UK, you have bread is a massive staple of their diet. You have it for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. You have sandwiches. The sandwiches are a delight. And here in the US, bread is manufactured in these large amounts, and you have all these different choices, which is brilliant. However, the majority of manufactured bread, I'm not talking about bread, but in bakeries or the smaller bakery section in the store, they have a lot of added sugar, and that gives the bread a complete different flavor from what we are used in the UK. So what I've been trying to do is also the bread size. I wish I could compare the slices, but you know, in the UK you have these nice slices of bread, and nice and big and square, and they make these gorgeous sandwiches. And here you get these little things, and you are like, what are they for? You need like 4 different one of them to make the equivalent of one sandwich in the UK. Just absolutely ridiculous. So I've been trying to find a few breads that Nature's Own, for example, has one that has no added sugar, and then they make a nice white bread that is a little bit bigger and has almost the same flavor as the one in the UK. And then there is one for Pepperidge Farm as well that has a less amount of sugar and a nice proper square size and thickness that is equivalent to that. So that's part of the relocation. Staples, like simple things like bread, you're not going to find an equivalent, because the country overall, the bread manufacturing has a different standard regarding the basic bread recipe. So it is nice sometimes, I have found, to buy in the smaller bakery sections of the store, and then you get a sort of like a more bakery feel and less of that sugary element that you have in the manufactured bread that you see in the bread aisles that can go for miles. Reminds me of that part in the Matrix when Neo is looking at all the weapons that show up. Sometimes that's the bread aisle in the shop. So it's really overwhelming trying to find something that actually suits your taste. Another thing that is quite fascinating is the infrastructure in the main highways. The more that we are driving around from one place to the other, especially this week that we had to go from our house to Universal Orlando Resort, and then from here to my sister's house in Ocoee, so Windermere to Ocoee and things like that, we're starting to realize there is one road we should always avoid, which is the I-4 in Orlando. And it seems like it has sections that are eternally under construction. And when you're driving through them, doesn't matter what time of the day it is, you never see anyone working on it. You see all the cones, machines, earth all being, steered around, but you never see a single human being working on it. So it's these mysterious constructions, and then you hear stories on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc., about these constructions been happening for years and years and years. So it's sort of like no one taking accountability for their completion. I don't know. So another thing that I'm going to keep reading and see what's going on. One of the other things that I wanted to touch upon this week was the fact that we're still on our search for work, and we constantly searching now. So people when they're relocating from one country to another one, you usually have a job lined up, and that's the way to get into the country, since we just did it out of the whim of getting the green card and just moving and relying on, as I say, on the process of the sale. Sort of kind of like backwards, we are looking for work. There is a lot of stuff available and that matches our skills and experience, but I'm starting to discover that a lot of things are weeded out by AI. So your CV, your resume, if you send it through Indeed or LinkedIn, it might get reviewed by an AI and then it'll get to the hands of a human. And I think probably the CVs that get to the hands of a human first have a better chance of getting actually reviewed, and they can see the value of your experience. So I don't know, you sort of feel in the limbo in the sense that you're relying on technology to evaluate CV before it gets to the hands of a human. But we're still applying, we're still putting our CV out there. We have improved and done various iterations using AI ourselves, so that way it has a better opportunity to get picked up after an electronic review and move around to a human. So to be continued, right? So that's it for this week, guys. Hope you enjoy this episode, and please, as usual, share with your friends, share with your family, and share with anybody that you know that might be going through a crazy relocation adventure as we are going. And send your love, and as usual, thank you for watching. Have a great week ahead. Take care.